They just don't seem to understand that Robertson's criminal record is highly extensive and very unpleasant. So, for 20 years, he's been breaking the law. This is not a nice guy. This is a pretty repellent human being. He's monetized his hatred of Islam. It has warped, in my view, all his so-called journalism, activism, whatever he wants to call it, because it's always skewed against Muslims. It's never fair and balanced in any way.
If you haven't already, go ahead, guys. Subscribe right now. You've been tuning in, but you haven't subscribed. Hit the subscribe button. Like this video.
This is the Dean Show. 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 This is the Dean Show.
Assalamu alaikum, greetings of peace. We have a very sad and heartbreaking topic to discuss today. This very evil, satanic, what they are calling the grooming gangs. There's a very interesting twist to all of this. The person leading this has been shown to be an opportunist, a fraud, a junkie, a con man. And a very good percentage of his crew are actually doing the crime, doing this evil. They've been exposed. And we have a great number of what you'd say are very intelligent people like Elon Musk, who have fallen into this trap of promoting this con man.
I know that there's a lot of cocaine going on behind the scenes that I just think that is thousands of pounds of potentially the money that, people are giving you.
And my next guest from S2J News will explain. We also have Jordan Peterson back at it again. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say, and we'll bring out my next guest to cover this very important topic.
That the fundamental danger from Islamic fundamentalism is going to come from Europe and the UK and not from the Arab states. Now, Tommy Robinson has been pilloried as anti-Islam, but there's a discussion to be had here. And no one wants to have it. And, you said we need a national inquiry. It's like we need more than a national inquiry. We need something like an international symposium on the relationship between the Christian West and the Islamic world, because there are ugly things afoot, and they've manifested themselves in the most hideous of all possible ways in the UK.
Zeeshan Ali, S2J News, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Did you see the clip? You were laughing because of Jordan Peterson or something else?
Peterson, I didn't think it would be possible for him to become a bigger joke, but I guess I was proven wrong. This is definite proof that this guy can and will sink lower than he already is. I mean, this guy is trying to claw back any relevance that he can, especially after supporting a genocidal regime and seeing his tweet go viral. Give him hell. Even till today, we'll see his tweet resurface, because right at the beginning, he was shaking hands with the butcher, with the genocide enabler, Netanyahu himself, eating on the same table, eating the remnants of our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And he not only is doing all of that, his bread and butter is coming from the likes of Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, we know any opportunity he finds, he tries to attack Islam and Muslims, migrants, to forward the agenda of course, his handlers, people like Netanyahu and others. But seeing this guy and his face, frankly, you know what, Eddie? I was shocked. I was shocked that Jordan Peterson was able to go through 1 minute without crying like a baby. Because every other clip that I see of this depressed individual, he's always weeping and crying over the smallest of things. Nice to see a dry face for once, for God's sake.
Tell me, so you mentioned the Israeli Wire. You had Candace Owens, who actually... she ended up at one point being with this Israeli Wire. And when you mention Israel and whatnot, you had recently independent journalist C.J. Wheelerman, and he exposed this as being a conspiracy to get all eyes off of Gaza. Since you mentioned Gaza, and then now Jordan Peterson, he's still on the employee payroll with the Israeli wire. So is this all somehow connected? And now he's a mouthpiece for this. And again, getting all eyes off what's many, are calling the modern day Holocaust of our time that's happening in Gaza. Is this a distraction attempt?
We reveal how and why Israel is behind the so-called Muslim grooming gang conspiracy that once again is rocking and roiling the United Kingdom.
Well, as you and much of the audience has seen, that it's a settler colonial kind of endeavor that we're seeing, and they're trying to conflate it into a religious war because they want to show Jews to be persecuted. However, there have been scores and scores of Jews that are vocal and saying, not in our name. There should be a distinction between Judaism and Zionism. And then they are trying to put forward this, turning Palestinian marches into Muslim anti-Jewish marches, trying to discredit it in any way possible. We know a couple of months ago Elon Musk was summoned to Israel to go and do the rites, R-I-T-E-S, over there to show his allegiance to his paymasters, and he did. And ever since then he's come back, and we've seen a change in X. We're seeing an increase in censorship. We're seeing an increase of people from organizations like the ADL, etc., being put on very high positions in X. And for sure, these things are being linked to Muslims and Islam. Just remind me of the last point that you mentioned.
The independent journalist C.J. Wheelerman, he did a good report showing how much of what's happening now, because he contrasted that with many, and I think the S2J News you guys did a report on what was happening in Guatemala.
When Guatemalan authorities rescued nearly 200 children from a controversial Jewish sect accused of rape, human trafficking, and forced marriage of children.
Más pequeña de 15, 14, sí. Nosotros hacemos casamientos tipo sí.
Members of Lev Tahor, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect, have been in the news recently after clashing with Guatemalan authorities during a dramatic raid on their compound that resulted in 160 minors and 40 women being placed in protective custody. Allegations of human trafficking led to the raid and the discovery of a child's skeletal remains. The group has a notorious history filled with scandals, but claim they are victims of religious persecution. However, time and time again, the cult-like community has been embroiled in controversies ranging from sexual abuse of minors to kidnappings, with testimonies often coming from former members.
And what was happening in other places, and nobody's actually talking about the kids. Nobody's talking about, which, we strongly condemn. This is very sad and heartbreaking, but let's keep it fair all across the board. And
I just remembered you mentioned the point, which was, is it a smokescreen to take attention away?
That was one,
from...
and then getting to that. So from there, getting
yes.
to it now, we're not focusing on anything else that's happening, but just here at this time, a smokescreen.
Oh, for sure. You hit the nail on the head. This is another Holocaust that's taking place. In fact, here in the UK, rather than focusing on this Holocaust, Keir Starmer feels the need to come out and say that the Holocaust will be an obligation. Everybody has to learn about it, not the Holocaust of the Palestinians. However, the Holocaust that's happened, towards at the time of World War II. So, which is very interesting sort of time. But there does seem to be a concerted effort to draw attention away from that, because Israel was definitely hurting, and Elon Musk is now doing the bidding for Israel, and also it's to take attention away from the H-1B visa fiasco of Elon Musk, because normally he's championed by the right wing. However, when it comes to the H-1B, because he's trying to line his own pockets and he knows what he requires to prop up his businesses, and he requires foreign skilled migrants, and he is of course whispering in the ears of Donald Trump, and that did cause strong reactions from the likes of Nick Fuentes and I think her name is Laura Loomer, who are very pro-Trump. However, he was losing a lot of support. Now, however, he is strategically winning back that support by championing a quote unquote undercover cause of the far right, because they love talking about this, but they don't like to really mention and give the full picture, in fact. And it's unfortunate that we do have victims of the grooming gangs that are being used politically. Yeah, an example that I like to use is that of, I think her name is Caitlin Spencer, and she says as well, let me just make sure I've got her name right, because her case study is a really good one. Yes, her name is Caitlin Spencer. She was also a victim of the grooming gangs, but she said as well that when she was doing her speech to be said in the House of Lords, the far right were helping her and they were encouraging her to use the term Muslim and blaming it on, the Muslims and the Asians. And she said, hang on a minute, I was there. Not all the victims were white. There were, people of other color. And the area that I was in was predominantly Asian. So she understood this later on, and she's realized this, and she's been vocal into saying, don't weaponize this. It's not just a white issue, i.e. the victims being white. Yes, I was there. I've gone through it, and I'm telling you. And you know what they do to her? They say your children should be drowned in the English Channel. That's what they say to her. This is a victim of a grooming gang. Why are you speaking to her like this? Oh, because she doesn't kowtow to your political stance. So you don't care about the victims then, do you? Yeah, even Shatter Boys. Yeah, Shatter Boys, who are from either Rochdale or Rotherham. There are a group that deal with child sex abuses. They were approached by senior UKIP members. Yeah, senior UKIP members, and told, you know what, use the whole grooming terminology and blame it on the Muslims, and we'll get you $1 million funding. But they were like, what's going on here? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So there is a concerted effort to weaponize victims. You know what, as Muslims we say, as Muslims we say, regardless of culture, regardless of religion, if somebody does something like that, they should be held to the highest standard, the highest punishment that they can get. Give them that punishment. However, you guys are content with, just send them to prison. They can play the Xbox there, get 5-course meal and everything's fine. No, we don't say that. We say the punishment should be more severe. And linking it to our religion, that I'm sure you're going to bring those questions, but this is an absolute joke. And you see clowns like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk jump into the fore. However, the first person to cover it, there was a 4-page spread on the Times. That journalist, let me get you his name. Yeah, that journalist, oh boy, yeah, we come in with receipts. His name is Andrew Norfolk. Even Andrew Norfolk, when he's doing an interview with the news agents a couple of days ago, even he says that this case is hijacked by the far right, and they're not doing justice to the cause. In fact, they barely even care about the cause. They only care about forwarding their political agenda. So anyone, whether it's a grooming victim, whether it's the first person in the UK to cover it as a news story, these people are coming out and saying, yeah, these guys, they've missed the boat. Sorry, these people, they've missed the mark. That's the correct saying. These people have completely missed the mark.
You've often heard this statement where, and we can look from within, like, okay, as Muslims now, when people accept Islam, many have said, okay, alhamdulillah, or thank God that I learned Islam before I met a Muslim. Okay, so you have Muslims who, Islam is clear on certain things, drinking alcohol, but you have some Muslims that go to the club and get drunk. Now, can you blame Islam on that? It's like the example of the person drunk driver who jumps behind a vehicle and then crashes the car. And now you're going to go ahead and blame the manufacturer. So Islam is clear on these things.
Eddie, when it comes to cars, let's be specific. You retweeted Umar Suleiman, who made a very good point. It was about Tesla cars. Look how many accidents are happening with regards to the Tesla car.
Yeah.
Are you going to blame Tesla? No.
There you go. Specific car, Tesla with Elon Musk. So Elon Musk can understand that when people are attacking Tesla and now they're trying to attack Islam. Islam is clear on this. So we condemn this categorically. There's nothing. I mean, you go back to all the deterrents that are in place. You know, Muslim also has such a high respect for women that he's not going to be touching your wife at all or shaking her hand, right? Back in the day, the cowboy would take his hat on, but Islam had it down before any of this. So let alone being alone with a woman, let alone dating, let alone going to the evilest of things, graping and doing all these other things. So how do they make this big jump like that?
Eddie, you know what? It reminds me of a quote from Animal Farm of George Orwell. It says, all animals are created equal. However, some animals are more equal than others. I feel that this standard is being used when it comes to Muslims. Yeah. When it comes to Muslims, certain crimes are given a certain terminology and relegated towards us. Yeah. Whether it's terrorism, whether it's honor killings, whether it's grooming gangs. We're seeing terrorism done by white people. We're seeing honor killings done by white people. We're seeing grooming gangs done by white people. When I say white, I mean white Christians, white Caucasians, people from the West. But when they say and they link the actions of a few Asians or no problem, a number of Asians, how is their religion to blame? Did they proclaim this? Have they written manifestos? What evidence do you have to link their actions to their faith? They don't. They simply don't. It's the actions of a foolish, disgusting few, and the foolish, disgusting people should be brought to justice. But you know what? You know what's interesting? Their thing is not related to religion. However, when it comes to grapes done here in the West, I come bearing receipts. Here in the West, BBC say the headline is thousands of children have been abused in churches in Spain. Churches by religious people. Religious people who? Religious Christians. Reading which book? The Bible. No problem. France 24. Thousands, again, child abuse in French church. We're not dealing with a few. We're not dealing with gangs. We're dealing thousands institutionally. Then CNN, thousands in the Portugal church. Then thousands in US, more specifically Pennsylvania. This is by one individual. We're dealing with thousands is just me being charitable. Yeah, we're dealing with ridiculous numbers. However, Eddie, have we come across people that have labeled the entire the Christian religion?
Even though this was cover up, this is the difference. They were covering it up. The church, they were actually covering it up.
Absolutely covering it up, and the religious element is clear. It's taking place in a church by religious people. It doesn't get more clearer than that. Was there a call to rewrite the Bible? To take these verses out? Were verses taken out of context and linked to these people and said these are the verses that these people are following? Was there a call? Was there an absolute blanket blame being put on Christianity? Were Muslim countries saying, oh, you Christians need to come out and, condemn these actions and this and that? Absolutely not.
Why the hypocrisy? Why the double standard? Yeah.
Yes. We're just saying be consistent.
Be consistent.
Look, you ask any Muslim, whether it's a church, whether it's a synagogue, whether it's a gurudwara, whether it's a temple, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a Muslim, whether it's a Christian, whether it's a Hindu, whether it's white, black, Chinese, whoever it is, they should be punished. They should be punished the highest punishment that is possible.
Islam has the highest punishment for this.
Oh, yes.
God's law has the highest punishment for this. So, if I understand you correctly, nobody's trying to cover this up. You're saying give him the highest punishment, whoever it is, be it someone who has the name of Ahmed or whatever the case, if he's for whatever religion, just be consistent and treat all people. Don't try to exploit this for a political agenda and use Islam to go ahead because of your hatred for it to put it under the microscope. And let's go ahead and again, this is a very sensitive topic. I understand. I'm going to show some verses from the Bible just for the essence of education and helping people show that if you want to play this sick and deranged game, we could do the same thing. For example, you have here, so many different verses in the Bible that people can take out of context, or maybe it's in a context, but if men would not listen to him, so the Levite took his concubine and had relations with her, and then they raped her and abused her throughout the night at dawn. You can go ahead and you can see here, if a man happens to meet his virgin who is not pledged to be married and he grapes her, what happens next? I mean, have you seen some of these verses? Then the man pays the 50 shekels. He gives the 50 shekels to her guardian, and now he ends up marrying her. Are you familiar with some of these verses, Zeeshan? So this is just in the essence of showing that if you want to play, you also have verses where a person is told, people are told by supposedly God to go in this village, destroy everyone, annihilate everyone, and keep the little ones, right? The young girls for yourselves. I mean, this is in the Bible. You can look this up, but we don't blame Christianity as they're trying to go ahead and say this is a Islamic problem. This is a Islamic problem. When Islam condemns this, just like Islam condemns, all these other horrific crimes that people do, a Muslim might fall into, right? Who's not practicing Islam, but you cannot blame Islam, just like you're not going to go and blame Tesla for the drunk driver who got behind and crashed the car. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And the thing is, even when we look at the Manusmriti, because a lot of Indians, they're getting excited over this as well, because obviously Pakistanis are being implicated and they're using it to forward their own agenda. However, we know in their own newspapers, over 85% of the grapes that take place over there are people of the Hindu faith.
But Asian is not specific just to Muslims. Asian is also Indians. Correct?
Yes, it's Indians, it's Bangladeshis.
Hindus.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Sikhs as well. In fact, if you look at some of the pictures, the Sikhs are involved as well. And even when it comes to the grooming victims are not all white. That's what we're saying, and that's why even the Home Office Literary Review also said this is dangerous when you say that the perpetrator is of a certain race, or if the victim is of a certain race, because Ella Cobain herself said that I have worked with victims that are non-white. For you to remove them from the equation is dangerous, it's disrespectful, it's hurtful, because these people have had their lives ruined by sickos. And you know what, when they say cover up, yeah, indeed there may have been some foul play taking place, as is the case when it comes to child sex abuse in general. It's very poorly dealt with by the police. But if we want to look into grooming, the first time, like I mentioned, it was covered by the Times in 2011. Then in 2011 itself, there was a Pakistani identifying as a Muslim called Adil Ray. He was the first to do a documentary on this on the BBC. This was in 2011. And then in 2012, a Pakistani Muslim by the name of Nazir Afzal was the chief prosecutor, who reopened a grooming case that was closed and then convicted 9 and then went on to convict hundreds more. That's why we are not your enemy. It's these sickos. And that's why I'm showing you what Muslims or Pakistanis or Asians, whatever you want to say, they were involved in trying to expose this. Then in 2013, a Pakistani Muslim by the name of Tazeen Ahmed did an episode on Channel 4. Comes on terrestrial television here in the UK. And then in 2014, Professor Alexis J held an independent review and gave 20 recommendations to the then Conservative government, who did not follow them. That's what Keir Starmer said a couple of days ago, that those 20 recommendations have not been followed. And today the Conservatives are the ones doing all the tweets. And then in 2020, the Home Office published its report in which it said majority of the perpetrators are white. In 2022, the IX independent inquiry was also carried out. So when you're saying cover up, what do you mean by cover up? I can also give you several examples of cases in which you had white Caucasian Westerners that were given light sentences in the Independent. Yeah, Friday the 17th of March 2017. The headline says, man who raped 12-year-old girl walks free in Glasgow. Because Eddie, they're saying that it's a mass cover-up. When it comes to white crimes, yes, they get, punished and this and that. This was a white individual in Glasgow. He walked free. Well, let's look at another one. Yeah. Ex-MP avoids jail for making child abuse video with one victim aged 12 months. That's a baby. That's a baby. This was 7th of August 2020. Let's look at another story. Yeah, this was 17th March 2017. A man, 21, who admitted raping a 12-year-old girl again walks free after a judge agrees, hey, she looked over the age of 16. What you gonna do? Alright, let's look at another one. Yeah, 17th April 2023, reported by the BBC. Teenager lived in fear after rapist Sean Hogg walked free. What is going on over here? Why aren't they being implicated? It's because our enemy is the same. It's those that are predators of our children. Hang them all. Yeah, hang them all. If they are convicted, there's evidence that gets brought forward, hang them all. Don't just sling them in prison, give them an Xbox and a 5-course meal, nice mattress. No, get rid of them all, frankly. Yeah, there's no place for people like that in our society. But when you see people, what they're doing is they're using this. Like Elon Musk, it's clear. You've got the political commentators saying it's clear he's trying to get away from the H-1B visa sort of thing. He's brought this up and just to get the attention off him and this and that. And people are falling for this. All hail Elon Musk. Wow, he's brought this to the fore. What do you mean? It's been talked about since 2011. What are you going on about? And where's Tommy Robinson? He's slung in prison because he was caught. You know what he was doing? He was trying to interfere in a trial, a grooming trial in which victims waited months. And this joker came along and tried to ruin that trial just because he wanted to get his footage for his crappy little documentary. What a clown. What an absolute joke.
I think that's fair and balanced. I mean, the enemy are the people doing these things, not an entire religion or entire people keeping that fair and balanced. So I think we need to work together to try to. And you gave great.
Eddie, was Epstein a Muslim?
Epstein was not a Muslim, no.
Harvey Weinstein, was he a Muslim?
I mean, you have cases like this here. Why are they not discussing this? This is also happening right under our nose.
No. Don't be an anti-Semite. You're going to be anti-Semite, Eddie. No.
A Muslim cannot be anti-Semite because Jesus, Moses, they were Semites, and we love and revere them as great messengers, prophets of God. The Palestinians are Semites, so you can't use this, Zeeshan. This is a false argument, but I won't let you get away. I won't let you get away with that. But the point is that many are exposing the fact that why isn't Elon and others discussing this? They're not bringing this also. So keeping it fair and balanced, that it's not just Eddie, let alone the kids in Gaza who are dying. Kids.
Eddie, it's not just. It's not just
these kids
Elon
who are being
Musk.
exploited. These kids here are being exploited. In Colombia, I think there was also things that were uncovered. There's so many cases of this happening, and they're not talking about this religious group also. But
away from growing media scrutiny over its global paedophile network, the details of which started coming to light a few years ago, when an Israeli soldier was arrested in Colombia for heading a child prostitution ring.
The sad reality is that even some of our own have taken the bait. People like Andrew Tate tweeting that there's an Islamic problem. You fool.
A shirt or a button that says "I'm a Zionist." What does a Zionist mean to you? What is a Zionist?
Well, a Zionist is someone who believes in a homeland for Jewish people. I believe.
My definition, when I've looked at that in the dictionary, is Israel first.
It means Israel first.
Yes.
Okay. Well.
Right. Well, you know, there is a negative connotation in a lot of realms about Zionism, and since it does denote that it is Israel first, can you possibly serve two masters? Meaning, can you serve England and Israel at the same time?
Shalom. Listen, let me tell you something. Yeah. If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session. If there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for.
What are you doing? Why is it that you only wake up whenever these far right people are going after the Muslims, yeah, with their false narratives? Look, if it was true, if it was accurate, then fair enough. But why are you linking Islamic to something which is it's a different issue? It's a issue to do with when you look at socio-economic issues of Telford, Rochdale. Look, I'm not justifying it. I'm saying there are other issues at play. When people say, oh, the culture is predisposed to... What about London? London has a higher proportion of Pakistanis over here. Why is that not happening? Or Asians over here? Why is it not happening in London? Why is it not happening in Cambridge, Oxford? Why is it not happening in Birmingham? Also, there are other factors at play. And that's the thing. And this is what we're seeing when it comes to...
Why is Medina the safest place in the world for women? And places like this, that this is the heart of Islam there, you would think they have the biggest problem there.
Eddie, not even just for women, very specifically, a female solo traveler. The study was for a female solo traveler. That makes it very easy for predators. So the question was, what city is the safest? And they concluded Medina. Bro, we don't even shake their hands. How can you square that circle? So when he's saying it's an Islamic problem, you know what? This is very suspicious. It keeps coming up. And you know what, Eddie? This whole grooming thing has taken a lot of lives. You know that terrorist that gunned down 51 people in New Zealand in the mosque? That guy, on his ammo, he wrote for Rotherham or Rochdale. So the grooming thing reached him as well. An 81-year-old man. An 81-year-old Muslim man. I think we need to... His name is Mohsin Ahmed. In 2015, he was walking in Rotherham. And then he was approached by Caucasian men. And they beat him to death. To death. And you know what they called him? They called him Paki, and they called him a groomer. This was an 81-year-old innocent man.
Unbelievable.
Even the attacker of Finsbury Park Mosque, he again was into this whole grooming thing as well. And not to mention, you know, the guy who was throwing Molotov cocktails. And also he watched a BBC television drama called Three Girls, which was to do with the grooming gang in Rochdale. Yeah, this is Darren Osborne, who ran over people outside a mosque. Yeah, not to mention what happened in Dover. Yeah, where he was throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever it was at migrants, and he also was referring to grooming. So this whole notion of linking grooming to Islam, and you see people like Andrew Tate, Elon Musk, he is to be held in the same breath as them, frankly. His brother openly admitting, yes, I'm funding Tommy Robinson. This is on his Twitter page. Yeah, so there's more at play here. And guys, do not allow these people to manipulate you. You'll see even people like Nick Fuentes, who is about white power, white power. However, even he's saying, what is going on with these people? Why are they falling for the trap? Hang on a minute. Is he a Muslim? Is he an Asian? No, he's just somebody that is looking at this objectively. Yes, we can be angry at this case. Yes, we can be furious at this case. But we have to see who's pushing it. And we have to see what foul play is taking place as well.
Let's get into this next clip here. And this is the person who is leading the charge here. And unfortunately, many people have fallen into this trap. It's been exposed. He's a fraudster, a con artist, a junkie. And let's get into this clip and we'll take it from there. And also that you also did a report that the majority of his crew were actually, many were convicted or charged for such crimes.
Was and possibly still is funded by pro-Israel anti-Muslim organizations based out of the US. One source of funds, according to a Guardian investigation, is tech billionaire Robert Shillman, who until recently was a director of the Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, has funded Dutch extreme right politician Geert Wilders, and funds journalism at the far-right news outlet Rebel Media. The Times of London spoke to a former colleague of Robinson, Lucy Brown, who said Shillman paid $11,000 a month for him to work.
All of the Tommy team absolutely fucking hate Danny Tomo.
They do now,
because they know what some of the things he's done. All the women especially hate him.
Yeah, it was. It came to light that my daughter, who was a survivor, when he met my daughter, who was working in my office at the time, the minute he met her, he started texting her all the time, continually texting her. She went down, she drove herself down to his place, and then apparently him and his mate were there just doing coke all night.
Yeah, no surprise.
Nurse her into bed.
Yeah.
Going to my daughter, I don't know. But
groomed, simply groomed.
Yeah.
Hitting, like throwing a chopping board at his wife or something. And I know that there's a lot of cocaine going on behind the scenes that I just think that is thousands of pounds of potentially the money that, you know, people are giving you because they're living in areas which have been so affected by mass immigration that anyone talking about it, they see as a hero. And then you're just going to go and waste all of that up your nose. So,
well, a lot. So we're not just making this stuff up. What do you have to say? So you have people from the inside discussing this junkie habit. You also have the money that's inappropriately spent on drugs and taking advantage of people in this situation like him and then his crew. These you had a father who's talking about now this individual who was his right-hand man. Is that right? And then you also did S2J News did a report on this. What are your thoughts?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like you alluded to, there have been at least 20 members.
20
supporters. 20.
But these guys are supposed to be championing the cause. I don't.
Well, apparently they're championing their own cause, a cause that shouldn't really be championed, frankly. At least 20 members and supporters convicted of child sexual exploitation offences, and at least 10 of these.
Does Elon Musk know this? Do you think Elon Musk knows that? I don't think Elon Musk would associate himself with someone like this or people like this if he knew this. That's why you say he fell in a trap.
He fell in the trap, exactly. And unfortunately and sadly, some people are saying it's like he doesn't want to know. The deaf, the dumb, the blind, it's like he's blind to these sorts of videos and exposes and evidences, because at least 10 of these individuals were active in the EDL while Tommy Robinson was still leading it during his time. And we are yet to find a single condemnation from Tommy Robinson himself. And one, of course, was a co-founder of the EDL. And if you look at some of the crimes, it's just vile. One, girls getting raped at least 100 times by these sickos, and them taking videos and sharing videos of children. It's absolutely disgusting. But aren't these supposed to be, like you rightly pointed out, champions, people championing the cause of finding and rooting out these grooming gangs? Well, apparently not. The case for it being used as a tool to forward their own agenda that case seems to be stronger and stronger as we continue getting further and further into this video and presenting all of these evidences. It is unfortunately evident that these people just don't care. Simple as that.
There was a report that he used and others are using, and you have an expert in this area, an academic, Dr. Ella Kakbain, who discusses this Quaylam report, is it?
Quilliam, yeah.
Quilliam report. Can you touch upon this?
Yeah, so Ella Cobain is she's quoted kind of very heavily in this because this is her one of her fields of expertise, and she's done some really good work in this. And she said that the initially, when this whole grooming thing caught traction, all of the newspapers went with this headline, and the headline said 84% of grooming gang offenders were South Asian. And again, Quilliam is an organization that was funded again by the Islamophobia industry, and grassroots Muslims knew and saw absolutely through them. But the analysis that she did was cutthroat. She said, firstly, they didn't even mention where their data came from. Yeah, no mention of where the data is from. I mean, isn't that something that you should really be disclosing? No, shh, it's a secret. Then they took media cases. Who are these guys? Who looks to BBC when trying to compile a report? Thought you go to the victims. Yeah. Then they only looked at 264 offenders over 12 years. What were they doing during 12 years? Taking a giant nap? Every winter were they going into hibernation? Well, that's what it seems, because on average they were only looking at 22 offenders a year. But in 2016 alone, there were at least 6,687 offenders. Yeah, and that's just in England and Wales. They were making conclusions on the victims, which in these cases had anonymity protection. And they were actively denying black and brown victims, which, as I said, Ella Cobain herself said, I worked with them. So why are you removing them? And of course, the authors, all they in essence went with was, we're Muslim as well, we're Asian as well. And the far right lapped it all up. And these guys had absolutely no expertise, not only in data analysis, but in child sexual abuse. They were just brown, they were just Muslim, and they just said, look, trust us, because, we're on the same team here. And apparently that was enough for the newspapers. That was enough for the people that were, pushing this to take something. And it's not even peer reviewed. It's not even an academic piece. Can't be taken seriously. And that's why it's not being mentioned nowadays, because we're ready and we would rip it apart, mate.
Let's go ahead as we conclude. Let's touch upon a couple of things. So one, from the internal, no Muslim should be obviously allowing himself to be in a situation that he's going to disobey the commands of his creator, who wants him far away from things like this. So from doing drugs, alcohol, even as we said, the detail of even touching a non-mahram, a woman now, let alone dating, let alone fornicating, let alone taking it to this level where now you're being accused of something so evil and despicable, where you can actually get the death penalty in Islam. So let's touch upon that. I mean, and then the other part also, where Elon Musk and the like, to be fair and balanced. If you're going to care for this group of kids, make it across the board. That you have, like we mentioned, in Guatemala, in Colombia, in Gaza, all children equally, not just selectively picking who you want to use for political gain or because of your hate for what you don't even truly understand, Islam. So we call on him to come and sit with the Muslims, talk with us, and then make up your mind. But what do you? So from the internal to the external, let's cover it from both real quickly.
So internally, like you mentioned, we don't even shake hands with the opposite gender. We're told in narrations that if we are sitting alone in a room with a strange woman, the third is shaitan. That if we are to be with a woman, we have to marry them. You cannot have these extramarital affairs. Yeah, there are strict punishments in Islam, punishments that even the West is like, that's a bit too far. And we've seen this being enacted in Muslim majority countries like Somalia, like in some of the Arab countries. So it's not something that used to be done back in the days. No, if you're caught doing stuff like this, there are strict penalties. And rest assured, these people, even in the UK, their faces are known, and Muslims will be dealing with them themselves. That's the first thing, because even when they go to prison, it's no joke. There was an Asian who went into prison, I think, for allegedly killing his young daughter. There was somebody in prison that just slashed his neck with a tuna can. So you know what I mean, like, people don't take this sort of stuff lightly. The punishment in Islam is clear. Another thing to mention, which again, Eddie, you're not going to see being quoted by these people, and the reference for this is by Imam Tabrani in Al-Awsat, and it's a good transmission. It's a narration of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where he says, "He who harms a non-Muslim harms me, and he who harms me harms Allah." Now this, if a person was just to sit and just to reflect on this, he who harms a non-Muslim harms me. You've seen Muslims get up in arms when people insult the Prophet. Just insult the Prophet, not even harm the Prophet. Just insult him. The Muslims will be up in arms. Here the Prophet is saying, that person harms me. Okay, if we have this much love for the Prophet, then surely for Allah it will be another level. And then, he who harms me harms Allah. These are the sorts of teachings that we have, and that's why I'm seeing all sorts of tweets on Twitter saying, you know what, these sorts of news are concerning. However, the Muslims that I come across, they are equally outraged at stuff like this.
Absolutely.
And they are very nice people. I've had very good experiences with them, and that's why Habib Nurmagomedov said, these people don't read the Quran and Hadith, they read you. So we continue showing the best akhlaq and adab we can. And like a lot of people that are aware of politics and, you know, they've got stripes in this field, they are saying, do not fall into the race war. They are trying to make it one race against another, one religion against another. Don't fall for it. It's not that. We are all together against this sickness of the head. Children are vulnerable. They are to be looked after, they are to be nurtured, they are to be loved, not violated like this. No religion is okay with it. No culture is okay with it. Certain sick individuals that are trying to justify it to themselves, only they would say stuff like this, and they belong, well, according to some people, behind bars. According to some people, they should have a noose around their neck.
And this is my guest Zeeshan from S2J News. S2J News. You can go to read more on many of the topics that you discussed there. And I want to thank you for being our guest and helping us to cover this sad and heartbreaking topic. Hopefully the likes of Elon Musk and others can really take the time to be fair and balanced, in the same way we wouldn't blame Tesla for a drunk driver crashing the car. Sit with the Muslims, talk with the Muslims, really get to know Islam from the Muslims, and then make your decision from there, because we say this is the way of life from the Creator for all of mankind.
Absolutely. And Jazakallah khair for having me.
Thank you. Salam alaikum rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I cannot leave without giving you a gift. If you're not yet Muslim and you're tuning in to see what these Muslims are talking about, and you like a free copy of the Quran, go ahead and visit TheDeenShow.com. We'll take care of the postage and everything and get it delivered to you. And if you still have some questions about Islam, call us at 1-800-662-4752. We'll see you next time. Until then, peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. And if you like this episode of The Deen Show, like this video, Share this video far and wide and support us on our Patreon page so we can continue this work. Thank you for tuning in. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.